Welcome to In the Making. I'm Teresa Au. Join me for conversations with creatives, solopreneurs, and experts as we explore the unique challenges and surprising rewards of the creator economy. Today, I am so thrilled to be talking to Allan Peters of Peters Design Company. He is a Minnesota-based designer who has worked everywhere from boutique design agencies to marketing and advertising firms, all the way up to the big time principal creative at the iconic American retailer with the bullseye logo, my favorite, Target. Today, you might know Allan as a brand mark expert with a special knack for vintage-inspired badge logos. You might have read his book, Logos That Last, but you most certainly know Allan is the guy on Instagram who reimagines classic logos like Citibank, UPS, and the Chicago Bears. And he's also gained hundreds of thousands of followers this year. Allan, welcome to In the Making. Thank you so much for making time to chat with us today.
Thank you, Teresa. I'm happy to be here.
I know you're South Minneapolis born and raised.
That's right.
Yeah. When did you get into design? How did you get into this path?
You know, I've always loved to draw ever since I was a little kid. It was the one thing I was really passionate about. When you're supposed to be taking notes in class, I'd be filling all the margins with sketches. I'd be drawing on the desk and they'd be like, Allan, what are you doing? You're making a mess. But I was always that guy, and went to college with a major in drawing, which I don't know what you're supposed to do with that. And found design and fell in love because I always loved geometry and math and problem solving. And all of a sudden it brought it all together.
So after you went to design school, did you think you were ever going to start your own business?
You know, it was always a dream right from the beginning. I met my wife right after I graduated, and she would come and hang out at night in the studio while I was working. I'd work till like midnight, 1 a.m. sometimes, just because I was trying to get good.
Yeah,
and so she'd come and hang out, and she'd do her school homework because she was in college at the time. And then when she was all done with that, and we'd talk about, you know, our possible future together, what we might do, and you know, are we gonna have kids, families, things like that. And one of the things we talked about, because she was going to school for art as well. And then she actually went into marketing and creative writing. She can kind of do it all. Yeah. And we always dreamed of having our own agency, but it didn't happen right away.
Right.
15 years later, it all came together.
And I think there's a reason why it took that long, because you were gaining knowledge and skills and learning even more from other places, other companies you worked for.
They always say, you know, like to stay a student your entire life. I always continue to learn and grow. And it's not just like to follow new trends, but just to grow as a person, as an individual, and not just in creativity, you know, like everything in your life, you know, trying new things, new experiences, new foods, new music, all of it. And they all overlap and start influencing each other. Each place I worked at, you know, I worked at boutique mom and pop shops that literally was like me and a husband and a wife and an intern working together. Worked at like a 9-person agency, worked at a marketing firm, worked in-house for Target, worked at a big old global advertising agency, worked at BBDO, and all these things. At each of them, I learned little things about running a company, writing contracts, selling work. That's a big part. You can make great work, but if you can't sell it, it's never going to make it out there, right? That's a huge part of it.
Were all those different companies strategic on your part? Like, I want to work for a small agency and then a bigger agency, or because they were all so different and they did help you eventually run your own business, learning all those skills? Yeah. Or was it just by chance?
So my first job out of school wasn't a very strategic job. It was just like, I just need a place to work. But then after that, it was strategic. But then I realized like I needed that big client work in there. You know, these small and medium-sized brands weren't going to help me get the big brands.
Laddering up.
We were basically running our company from 2008 and we didn't start it full time.
Right.
And so it was like slowly ramping up, building up clients, getting to the point where all of a sudden those freelance projects I was working on, I started making more money doing those than I was making at Target. And it was time to do it, right?
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. Amazing. I want to rewind a bit
Sure.
and go back to 2009 when you had this incredible turning point in your life.
Right.
Yeah, oh, anyway, what happened?
In 2009, oh gosh.
I know.
It was my wife's 26th birthday, and we didn't have any kids at the time, but we were trying to have one. We had this huge party for her and had everybody that we knew and everybody that we loved there. It was almost like a family reunion. It was like everybody who would be at your funeral, and it was a beautiful day. We had just moved into a new home not too long before that, so it was almost like a housewarming party for a lot of people. I'd never been there before. And near the end of the night, when there were only a couple of us left, we were having a fire out back, and a couple of men entered our yard with masks on and bandanas and stuff like that, almost like it was out of like some 90s gangster movie.
Yeah.
And they demanded our money. They put a gun to my wife's head, and it was her birthday. She was probably pregnant at the time with her first child, and I just kind of lost it, overreacted big time.
You were trying to protect the one you love.
Right. I attacked the guy closest to me, and as I was charging towards him, the fellow who had the gun to my wife's head turned and shot me in the ribs. And I looked down, I didn't see any hole, and I was like, well, looked real, but like, did that actually happen? And the adrenaline's flowing, and I was like, get out of my yard, chase him for about a half a block to a block, something like that, before the guys realized I was dying. Stumbled back to the yard. My wife put pressure on the wound. I was taken to the hospital and opened up for a day and a half while they stapled and stitched me back together. So the bullet went through my flank between my ribs and then traveled through, and it's actually still in me on the left side. The doctor saved my life. It's a miracle I'm still alive. Afterwards, the doctor is like, if it would have hit one of those ribs, it exploded. It would have destroyed all your organs. But it traveled between them. And they're like, if you hadn't been, I was running a lot of the time. I was doing like, not like a marathon runner, but I was going like 6-mile runs. I was pretty proud of that. And working out and stuff like that. And they said, if I hadn't been doing that, I'd have bled to death. And then afterwards, talking with the detectives, they never found a bullet casing. And so chances are the gun jammed. So it's a miracle. And I thank God that I'm still alive and that I'm here and be able to be here for my kids and my family, and to be able to use my gifts to help other people. And it taught me a lot. I'm a little less fearful about things. I'm not so scared of like public speaking or, dealing with a difficult client, I'm not rude or anything. I'm still going to be a nice Christian dude and be friendly and everything like that. But at the same time,
it gave you a different perspective, right?
For sure. I'm less of a feather in the wind, just following the path that life takes me.
Yeah. Well, we're all so happy you're alive and here. Thanks for sharing that. I know it could be heavy. And thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Now, did the shooting prompt you to move outside of Minneapolis to Eagan?
I think just because my wife and I are kind of stubborn and we're just like, we're not going to let this break us. There was a little bit of that, and we stayed living there for 2, 3, 4 years, something like that. And then we did move out to the City of Eagan, where we live now, which is it's a beautiful place. It's not too far out. We still go to the same church that we live 3 blocks from, and it takes us 20 minutes to get there. It's not a big deal. Your
Eagan project is actually one of your very famous calling cards. Thanks. And I love the story of how it came about. So can you please tell the audience how that happened, how you got that job?
Absolutely. So while I was doing these freelance projects on the bus when I was working at Target, those benches in the front of the bus, the longer ones that are for like handicapped people usually? Yeah. I was taking the express bus. So it was all like business people. There was never any handicapped people on it. So I just like sit up there, and I would have my Pantone book and my laptop and all
spread out,
all my Adobe stuff, right there, and just be cranking out projects.
Your mobile studio.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
more or less. They probably all thought I was so weird. But
So you're on the bus
yeah, so I'm on
doing
the bus. We're
projects.
driving past the water tower of City of Eagan, and where I had just moved, and they had the worst logo. It looked like a stalk of broccoli, and it was like a clip art tree with a really bad font. And Egan's beautiful. It's so pretty there. The beautiful parks. It's lovely to explore. There's so many meandering, curving roads and that follow the topography of the land. It's just it's beautiful. I love it there. And I had reached out to the city on Twitter, and I was like, "Dear City of Eagan, I would love to redo your logo. Here's a link to my portfolio."
And they read it.
And they read it. They met me downtown over a lunch break, and they said, "Allan, this is way bigger than just a logo. There's multiple marks like for the city. We need a brand manual. We need templates for the signage for the vehicles. We need the whole package." And so, it started as a tweet turned into a six-figure project. It was awesome, and it was one of the things that helped us kick off our agency. And it's been so cool seeing it out there. Like people have somebody from the city got it tattooed. It got featured in the latest, Designing Brand Identity, the 6th edition that just came out. It's in there.
I saw that.
Like
and you're
between
next to
the Smithsonian and the Apple logo. It's crazy. It's
Yes.
crazy. Yeah. So yeah, so cool. It's on like every street in the city. It is.
And
It's
you live
really
there.
cool,
And
but, like, I can't move now. Like, how am I supposed to move from the city?
Well, but I know you've done logos and branding for other cities maybe from this project.
Yes.
I saw in your book. Yeah.
Yep. The city of Hartselle, Alabama had reached out, and city of Shoreview, Minnesota. Yeah. And I've had other cities reach out. Those are just the ones that like everything worked out, and I won the RFPs. And it's pretty cool. They always say fill your portfolio with the type of work that you want to do and chase those projects because they'll bring more of that type of work over time.
Yeah.
So if you got that city project in there, you're gonna get a bunch of city projects. If you do a really good job on some streetwear brand, you're gonna get a bunch of streetwear brand stuff. And if you don't have the opportunity to do those initial projects, do offer to do them for free, just to get in there, or do some fictitious ones, just to make a couple of awesome projects, or what ifs. Like I do a lot of that on Instagram where I'm like, hey, what if I change this around,
Yeah. Oh my God. I was just going to talk about that because, I want to talk about your projects that's even bigger than Eagan. Eagan's pretty humongous and very special to your heart. But I think a lot of people have been learning about your work, like myself, from your Instagram reels.
Yeah.
I know people call them design fixes, but they're more like reimagining, like you just said, or evolving logos as an exercise to get people thinking about design. How did you come up with that?
I've kind of been doing it for a while. I do a lot of brand marks. Like I was working on a company that started with a G, and one of the subject matter things I had on there was a lightning bolt, and I was doing all these different things, and I made this logo that I stared at. I was like, gosh, that's really cool. And then I looked at it for a while. I'm like, gosh, that looks like something. I'm like, it's kind of looks like the Gatorade logo. I'm like, did I just rip off the Gatorade logo? And so then I looked it up, and I'm like, oh no, it's just like the same thing, but way the hell better. Like, I should do something with this. My 14 million viewed reel for Gatorade. Yeah, sometimes some of these, it's just like it comes from a different exploration, and like, oh wow, that would be really perfect for this. People ask me, what is your favorite part of the process? And a lot of people, their favorite part is like when it's all done, the big presentation to the client, and the client's like, I love it, and they're like, oh, and like there's these happy moments, right? My favorite moment is when I'm sitting there drawing and sketching out all the ideas, and I get one where I'm like, oh, that's it. Like they're going to love this. Like you solve the problem, you crack the code, solve the case, right? And I love that moment. And nobody ever sees that moment or shares that moment. It's like this personal moment that
it's yours alone.
Yeah. And so I thought the cool thing about these reels that it does is it kind of shares that aha moment. I don't show the 150 sketches that led to the 15 brand marks that led to this, I just share that fun moment where you solve it and crack it. And there's so many people that have DM'd me or sent me messages that said like, oh, my kids love watching this, or I've started to get into graphic design because I'm watching these because it seems so fun. Because that moment, because there's so many people that like when they shared or see that moment, they're like, oh,
yeah,
I want to do this too. This is so cool. I didn't realize logo design could be so fun. I think that's the magic. I think that's why so many people like them and so many people share them. And I'm not making them to like the Gatorade one. I didn't make that for Gatorade. I'm not trying to go win Gatorade as a client. I'm not coming after the Gatorade team and being like, screw you guys, you're so dumb. Look what I made. It's so much better. It's not that at all. It purely is like, here's a fun idea.
I love that. I was going to ask you, was it a strategy to boost your social, or it was just something you tried and it really hit home?
So back in the day when I worked at Target, I got a project that nobody else wanted, and it was doing the social media for Target Canada. Target was going to go into Canada. I was having so much fun making all this work. It ended up in the 6 months that we were working on it, became the top retailer in, like social media wise on Facebook in all of Canada. And they like before the store even launched, it was crazy.
Wow.
And so it was like, I've always liked doing it. And it was like, I was always trying to come up with like, what about this? Try this, try that. And never sticking with the same thing over and over again. And so as I started our company, I kept trying to do the same kind of thing. Like, let's try this, let's try that. Let's see what works. And sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. I tried doing my own things. I tried doing weird things, tried doing things that other people were doing, and nothing stuck and nothing felt right. Nothing felt authentic. And finally made this one that okay, here's the story. I was driving home from South Dakota from my sister's house. She lives in Sioux Falls. And you take this long stretch on a road called I-90, and there's no turns. It's just straight for like 3 hours. You're just sitting there and you just don't move your arms and you're just staring straight, making sure you don't like fall asleep. So anyways, I get stuck behind a truck that has a U-Haul trailer. And I'm looking at it, and I don't know if you're familiar with the way U-Haul's design is. They have like, there's stuff all over the place.
Very busy, very busy.
There's just illustrations and pop-ups and like it's nuts. It's nuts. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. But their logo itself, the U-Haul logo, is ever since like the 50s and 60s and stuff like that. It's always been kind of a cool logo. It's like the U it's metaphorically being hauled by the word haul. I'm like, that's kind of clever, right? There's a really good nugget of idea there that's not perfectly executed and certainly wasn't surrounded by good design. But there's potential there, right? And as I was sitting there in my minivan with my kids in the back, I designed the whole thing from scratch in my head. I'm like, okay, how can I make this better? How can I fix this? And when I get home, I spent an hour and a half, 2 hours, and basically took my idea and made it, right? Uh-huh. And at first I just posted images, like a little slideshow, like I would have done back in the day, pre-reels. And it performed really well, but it didn't perform great or anything. And I'm like, how can I make this as a reel? How can I kind of tell the story or explain why I'm doing what I'm doing rather than just show the stills?
Showing, yeah.
And I didn't know it was going to do well or anything. I was like, whatever, this is probably going to flop. And it gets like 1 million views. And I was like, wow. It was the cool thing about it was that like a friend of mine had just had like a 60 million viewed video where there were like some bears crossing the road and she filmed it. And she does nothing to do with bears. She just posted this and people liked it because the bears were cute. And she got all these views, but she couldn't reproduce it. It was just like a viral reel. It was like really fun. It was cute. It was like, I love it. I couldn't not double click it. Yeah. But yeah. But the cool thing about this is it was about what I do for a living. Yeah. I got like 1 billion new business inquiries from it. And I can reproduce it and make it for like all sorts of different clients. So many different things. Yeah. And I can repurpose it and just like, it's my own thing that doesn't look like anybody else's.
What is it like blowing up on Instagram? You have 650,000 followers.
Yes.
Is that for real? Is that for real? You regularly get more than 1 million views on your reels. I mean, that is amazing. Yeah. How does it feel?
It's a wonderful thing for our business. So many more new business inquiries come in. I can get my prices where they need to be because there's more demand, and it's wonderful. Our company is going to do great. We're going to have a wonderful year because of it. But at the same time, like there's like the balance of like all the weird trolls and all that kind of stuff. I'm very thankful that it happened, and it's going to be great for like future wise for like people to trust us. I've got to work with and talk to so many huge brands and celebrities and stuff that have reached out for logos.
Aw.
Like I shouldn't even talk about, but like famous people. It's insane. When I did the one for Shell, they reached out and they're like, we like the Shell company reached out and told me how much they love the logo. And like somebody from there reached out, was like, hey, do you want to come talk at Shell? I'm like,
potential client in the future.
But that's, and like I said, that's not why I'm doing it, but
right.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And my book that was already on its 4th printing sold out completely. Like they couldn't even keep up with the demand. So now I've been planning on making a course for a long time, and I'm sure that'll do good because all the followers, it's nuts, man.
Yeah. You're a natural teacher too. You're really good at showing how to do something, and
thanks.
You're a great speaker. Yeah. People would sign up in a minute.
I love doing workshops at conferences. I love working with people one-on-one, but at the same time, like being able to do a course, doing something.
You have to scale. Scale.
Absolutely.
So you can't clone yourself. So how do you scale?
That's true.
I want to double click for a minute on how Instagram has changed how you run your business, because now you have all this incoming inquiries, right?
Yeah.
Are you planning to staff up? Because is it still just you and your wife?
Right.
How big is your company?
We talked about that right away, because we could easily do that. That was never our intention for our company. But like obviously my wife and I had to have the talk, like we can make millions of dollars if we wanted to bring in the staff, if we want to do it that way. But I don't know. Right now I'm very happy with how things run. I like making the work, and rather than directing the work, that's always been a thing for me. Most folks my age, they're creative directors and ECDs and chief creative officers and stuff like that. And they're running teams, and they're not touching the work as much anymore, if at all. And I just ever since I was a kid, I just want to draw, right? Like I just want to make this stuff. That's what brings me the joy, that aha moment when you crack I just want to keep doing that.
It fills your cup. It
fills my cup big time. And I think I'd be really sad if life is short, as I learned, and I think, you got to live the life that you want to live. If you want to go chase a dream, you got to just reach out and do that. Like I had always wanted to write a book, and my wife said, she's like, Allan, you just got to put that out there. You got to let him know. You got to let him know you want to write a book. And so I said in one video, and it was like something that like, it's not like some million viewed video or anything. It's maybe 1,000, 2,000 people watched it. But the right people watched it, right? My publisher watched it. I reviewed a couple of books, and I was like, hey, the reason I'm doing this, because I would love to write my own. I'm doing it for research. And I just figured I'd have to self-publish or something. And they're like, Allan, let's do it.
We got you.
Yeah, we got you. And so I got the published with Quarto / Rockport. And it's pretty neat. It was a dream come true.
So what you don't want, which is so important. Mm-hmm. What's next for you then?
What's next is, it's funny. So I'm cranking on all these big projects right now. I probably took on more work than I should have. And so I'm like up to my ears in work right now, which people would be like, oh, that's great. You made it. And I'm just like, so much. I'm just like working, not working constantly, but when I'm working very intensely and like focused, right? Getting it all done. And it's fun and furious. But
fun and furious.
Yes. So I think my goal right now is to make it through this year, kind of like wrap this all up. My wife, she was like, she does her numbers, and she was going through QuickBooks, and she's like, Allan, just like, we're having a good year. We're like, you don't need to work next year if you don't want to. Like we can just like take it. We're not going to take it off. We're going to do some more travel. A lot of the trips that we've talked about doing, like taking the kids, because we homeschool them. I'd love to take them to Europe and just do like a big long, not like a year long, but like a
good chunk of time.
Yeah, where we can just really explore and there's one thing about like to read about something, but to see it in person and touch and feel
absolutely.
It. I think that's huge, inspirational for me, for my job, and then also for just their education
for the kids. Yeah,
I think that's a big part of their growth, and so want to do that for sure. And then my publisher wants me to write a second book, and so but I was thinking it would be cool to write a book that goes with a series of online courses, and it all like it do it all. And so I was thinking like that maybe this is the year we do that. I've got all the content. I just need to
put it together.
Time to sit and put it all together. And that way I can help a lot of people. I love when I'm able to like help a young designer. If I can save them a lot of heartache and get straight to what they need to know quicker. I love being able to help people, seize their dreams.
I'm sure it's the most fulfilling thing, being in service of others. I love that feeling too.
For sure. I love teaching, especially when I can teach a lot of people. A lot of people are like my mom's like, Allan, if you just tell everybody what you do, they're just going to steal all your clients. I'm like, Mom, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You can help people out. The only difference is that there'll be a lot prettier logos out there in the world.
Oh, that's a wonderful, wonderful way to look at it. She's just being the protective mom.
Oh yeah, no, she's sweet. She's sweet.
I ask all of my guests this one last question is, what is your one word that is going to guide you next year or has been guiding you this year? What's the one word in your life that's really helping you?
I truly feel that if like someone sits in front of a computer all day and gets all their inspiration from Pinterest and searching Instagram and stuff like that, they're getting the same inspiration that everybody else is doing that is getting. And everybody's work starts feeling the same and looking the same. I love finding inspiration in the world. Sometimes going to antique shops and looking at vintage design. Sometimes it's just like going to like out into a mall or retail, or especially if you're like someplace that's not your home, seeing what other cultures are doing, looking both back in the history and forward. I really want to get inspired this year. So maybe inspired would be the word. Because that's how we grow. So I think like next year is going to be a more of like a recharge year, just like plugging the Tesla in and getting ready for that big road trip, right?
Yeah. I can't wait to hear all about it. Maybe you'll come back and share more of your adventures. For sure. But I so appreciate your time and everything you've shared. And I just want to tell you that I love the quote that you shared in one of your videos, the one about getting shot in 2009. Yeah. You had this graphic: do not let fear be your master. Yes. Take risks and chase your dreams.
That's right.
That so resonates with me. So yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. I'm so grateful.
Thanks, Teresa. Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you again to Allan Peters for joining me today. I'm so impressed with how thoughtful Allan is about his success, mindfully creating the business and the life that he really wants. Here are just a few of my takeaways from this episode. 1. Be strategic about working for other people. What can you learn that will serve you when it's time for you to go out on your own? 2. Ask for what you want, and if you can, offer it to do it for free. Sometimes that can lead to a bigger paying gig. Allan got the job rebranding for the City of Eagan by sending them a tweet. He got a book deal by making a video saying that he wanted to write a book. 3. Get away from the screens and social media and look for inspiration out there in the world. Anywhere from local thrift shops to far-off lands. New inputs will help you stand out. Thank you for listening to In the Making, brought to you by Adobe Express, the free all-in-one content creation app that, if you're a Creative Cloud member, you have the premium version automatically. Now, please do me a solid, rate and subscribe to In the Making in your favorite podcast app today. It would really help more people find our show. I'm Teresa Au, and remember, you and creativity are always in the making.